So let's talk about it. All right, let's talk about this. Because I am the epitome of what is a passport bro. If you don't know this, I left the US in 1992 with the military and decided that after de-roasting, it was time to stay overseas because there was not too much that was attractive to me, worthwhile in the States. So I helped process and did all that jazz and just stayed overseas. So now I'm here in Mexico and I have been living in great countries similar to Mexico, but I live in Mexico for a very different purpose than I did when I lived in Colombia or Panama or Puerto Rico or any other country for that matter. If you can hear me and I'm not having any sound issues, we should be fine. So let me ask you this, because this has always been something that I've noticed about many Americans, North Americans specifically, that they have all these expectations. They have expectations about how people are going to be, how they're going to act, how they're going to treat you, and all this stuff. So when you come down to Latin America, they go into culture shock because people are so nice. It's almost a little bit like you a little bit scared of that, and they're not used to people being nice to them and treating them well and putting loving on them like they've never known. And yes, there is a lot of dudes that come down here and just want to look for hoes. Just want to go pay for play all the way. They have no intentions of staying here. They have no intentions of adding any value to the community. And that's to be expected. But these are dudes that don't know where they belong in the world. These are not guys that have it all together yet. So I'm not saying that all of us do, but you get to a point where the pain of staying the same is so painful that even that when the pain is staying the same is so great that the pain of changing the pain of changing when the pain of changing when the pain of changing is greater than the pain of staying the same, one will change. So you see, we get tortured in the US by, well, I don't, but I'm just telling you guys that for a long time the men of the US have been very uh, dissatisfied, and for good reason, because they've been thoroughly abused mentally, physically out here. Mexico ain't safe, you guys. I've had so much stuff happen, but that's a side point. Got to be a man to be down here. A lot of stuff happens, especially when it comes to women and money. There's two things that affect us the most is romances and finances. So when we want an out of the rat race and we find a way to support ourselves either by retirement or by, some of you guys are digital nomads or some of you guys actually open physical businesses, you'll find that you are now in the upper class. So you're going to be very attractive to a lot of ladies. You're going to be more attractive to a lot of ladies because we are considered exotic. If you speak English, you are considered exotic. I don't care what color you are. All this mess about that nobody likes black guys. Man, you just got to get off your ass and go find them. You cannot allow all the Latin lovers to take all the women. It's just not happening because if I was to go to Medellin right now, within 12 hours, I could find somebody who is 10,000 times better than anything you've ever seen. But not only that, but she would probably be extremely nice and sweet and very caring and just polite. And that alone would be suspicious for a lot of you guys. So there's always a question of how do I know if she's a pro? Because they're very clear about it. Pros usually bait guys while they're in the States and say, oh, I need money because if I don't, I gotta go work in a putera. I gotta go work in a whorehouse. They'll tell you that. So don't talk to them. That's it. That's the end of the story. If they have kids, they have tattoos, it's the same red flags. as in any other country. It's always the same, except when you go to El Salvador, which I believe they get tattooed at birth. And Mexico has a lot of tattooing culture that has nothing to do with prison culture. So tattoos on a Colombian girl are very, very calling. It's very telling about because Colombian women are very put together. They do not like to look trashy. They don't like to look trashy. Okay, the trashy ones like to look trashy, and they do. But most Colombian women, I mean Colombian men too, are obsessed with bathing. They like 3 times a day are having to take showers and washing their hair. My son, for example, gets a drop of water on his shirt, like his t-shirt, and he has to change clothes. And I'm like, give me a break. I mean, he's worse than a woman sometimes. So they're very, very serious about their outward appearances. And most of us, uh, foreigners, we don't know how to dress. Let's face it, we think we know how to dress. But I'm sitting there looking at all my videos I'm doing with like, combat and working with the firefighters and working with kids and if I'm not doing something formal, I'm not getting dressed up for shit. I'm not putting on a polo shirt. I'm not wearing slacks. I'm not polishing shoes. I am invisible gray man here. So I do not care if they think I'm a homeless guy or they think I'm a friggin' millionaire. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not here to show off, and nobody's here to impress. Trust me, there's nobody impressive here to impress. So I don't bother wearing any watches or anything nice out. There's no point in it. Okay? They're going to judge you regardless, and you're always going to be a foreigner with a wallet on your head. Always. So let's hope you don't get singled out by a family that knows what they're doing. And I'll explain. Because a lot of fellas, when they decide to come down, they hitch up with girls on the apps or whatever, and they meet them, and they usually meet them at the airport. It's a lovely, nice gesture that these girls do. That if you talk to them long enough and they like you and so on, it's very, very simple. It's very, very simple to fall very quickly in love with these girls because they're so adorable and so sweet, so kind that it's almost impossible not to just absorb into their energy, their femininity. They just want you in a way that you're probably not used to. So I'm blessed knowing that, every single time I've had some kind of a really screwed up thing happen with a relationship with a Latin girl, it's usually because something I did. You see what I'm saying? Something that I did is the thing that caused the problem. Let's check our silence. I usually am the root cause of any problem that has ever occurred in any relationship ever. Okay, I admit that right off the bat. Because if they had been a wonderful girl, they would have been boring for me because I was not interested in girls that went to church, went to, Catholic mass and all that stuff, met the grandma on Sunday. I was not interested in any of that. All I wanted was a hot girl that was willing to do shit with me all the time that I wasn't getting where I was coming from, that was willing to go spend time with me and go travel all over with me, go to the gym, like cook with me, and like go to the grocery markets and stuff and like buy fruit and vegetables and like try recipes. And that was my intention, right? That was like what I wanted. So I, of course, I'm already overseas. I'm in Panama at the time. Now in Panama, there is a very it's a shorter distance than Colombia is if you're flying from like Miami or something. Flying from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, whatever, and it goes to Panama first. And when you get off the plane and you look around the airport and you're like, hallelujah, how beautiful everyone is. Because these are all women coming from Venezuela and from Colombia legally on airplanes, coming to work. Now, what they decide to do for work is very easy to figure out because you're going to see that the prettiest girls, that is the eights, nines, and tens, always somehow, indirectly or directly, end up in the sex industry. either indirectly or directly. Not always. Come on, let's be real. But many, many, many of them, if they don't end up as a narco novia or as a wealthy businessman's wife, they will, if they're not connected early, in other words, if they don't have like breast implants provided for by their family to introduce them to engineer Josenstein over here because they want them to marry a blonde haired, blue eyed foreign guy that has money. That is their sort of goal for their kids. That would be nice. It would be even nicer if that man was Colombian because they would prefer to have, doesn't matter what country it is, if it's Mexico, if it's Argentina or whatever, they want to marry a Argentine man, a Colombian man, a Brazilian man over a foreigner any day of the week. Any day of the week. Now, there are great advantages to being with a foreigner, but it is a lot of work to be. Okay, let me tell you guys a story about Medellin. And so that you know, I was for 7 years in Colombia with one woman, just one. I never went outside the relationship ever. Never, ever, ever went outside relationship. So I was with her. And at the end of this relationship, because again, I was with a woman who was solid, I was able to observe from the outside. And then I ended up with a Venezuelan girl when I moved to Panama. So the Venezuelan girl was a professional prostitute, as in like a full blown. You guys would say streetwalker. This would be like on the level of escort, like Gold Star, New York City, like full on pro. That is only made for politicians. That had all the personality, had all the looks, had all the charm. And if you're not ready for this, if you are not ready for something that you may or may not be have heard of, it's called borderline personality disorder, and it comes from women that are super hot. And what they do is they latch on to dudes who have certain characteristics that they could try and control. And they go from 0 to 60 in no time. We're not going to get into it much, but it's called BDP, like Boogie Down Productions, but it's borderline personality disorder. Look it up. A lot of people that this only affects women. It's like bipolar disorder. Okay, so if I was to have a choice between a Venezuelan woman and a Colombian woman, I would take a Venezuelan woman 1,000 times over and over and over, stacked to the Empire State Building with $100 bills all day long while I make it rain on that bitch. Okay? Because there's nothing, nothing, nothing in this world that can compare to a girl with a body, a personality, the characteristics. They are not Colombians, guys. They are different. They're bred differently. They're raised differently. Their economy was crushed, and they were forced into poverty within years. They used to be a rich country. So you guys got to understand something. The United States is a rich country, and we're going to get crushed. We got invaded. We're going to get crushed financially, and then we're going to be the poor motherfuckers, and the Mexicans are going to be the rich ones. Just mark my words, guys. Trust me on this shit. And it'll be like something that you've seen in movies, okay? And if you do not understand what I'm saying right now, is that what we have has happened over and over and over again in the Bible. It has been about wickedness and about people not behaving and people turning against God and then getting invaded and then getting taken over. Period. It's happened over and over again. The only thing that happens to magically reverse this situation is guys like myself and guys like Ozzy and guys like Brian and guys like all these guys that have a brain in their fucking head that say there's more to this life than what I'm being fucking shitted on and given. Okay, we shitted on from school. They didn't teach us anything. Pushed us through, forced us to go. We weren't allowed to leave when we wanted to. It was a representation of factories. Factories are another hellhole where a person is basically incarcerated for 8 hours a day or more to do for very little money to pay very well. And again, the third part of that is prisons, which are privatized. And if you guys did not know that if you get arrested and you're put in prison for over a year, you generate $50,000 in revenues for the investors into those private prisons. So don't give me no shit when I talk about these things because I do know what I'm talking about. So all these things have painted a disrespectful picture of men, and it puts us in a very bad category. It says we're not worth more than that. So when we go overseas and we see these beautiful girls and they treat us so nice, and let me tell you something, they are not to disappoint. Let me tell you something, sometimes they fuck you so hard they act like they hate you, okay? But they will love you to death. It isn't like hoes. It isn't like prostitutes. I'm talking about women that genuinely that you meet the old-fashioned way. She might work at a bakery. She might be a teller in a bank. But the quality is so amazing that when you meet them and you talk to them in person, they're so sweet. You're like, I wonder if that's just you fall in love quick with this because they're so nice. I can't believe it. It's like if I can have a cup of coffee, all right? I just want to have a cup of coffee. I really don't have to beg for it. I don't have to negotiate for it. Hey, will you do this for me? I don't have to manipulate and say, you know what would be really great right now is if we had some, um, some sweet bread or some donuts. And I'm doing this because I'm telling her psychologically that I want a cup of coffee, but I'm not doing it directly. I'm doing it like they do it, like passive aggressively saying, hey, you know it would be really nice because it's getting sunny now that, I heard my friend said she wanted to go to Jamaica. See what I'm saying? That game right there. All right. We're not playing this game with them because we're 50 moves ahead and always on top. Because if you can learn to pimp and not to simp, and remember that your value has just gone up so extemporaneously compared to what you think you are. And you have been comparing the outsides of other people to your insides. And if you had an abusive mother like I did, or if you had abusive aunts like I did, and they told you that you were just a man, that you weren't good enough for good looking women, or you were never going to have a good looking woman, or you were incapable of because look at all the relationships you fucked up, and you're so selfish and you're a womanizer and you're and add to infinitum because that is the generational trauma from their uncles and their aunts and those dads that abandoned them or their grandpa who abandoned their mom. So it's all generational curse that they want you to still participate in. So the generational curse goes away the minute you get your passport and go over the fucking border somewhere else. All that dissolves. No one cares where you go. No one cares what you're doing. No one's thinking about you at all. They cannot take anything else from you anymore. So the only thing they have at this point is sign language, saying insults, guilt, and a need to be right. So if you go overseas and you meet this girl, she happens to be black. She just happens to be black, and you go and you take a picture and you like take a selfie with her and you send it to your uncle. Oh, I see. We're gonna go out with them kind of people now, huh? And you get that ghetto, that hillbilly, that cracker attitude because you decided, hey, I'm not like you. Okay, my teeth are fucked up like yours are, but I don't think like you do. Most military guys don't think like you do. Those are crackerheads. Those are fucking. Those are the ultimate in plantation bros. You guys think the plantation bros for black guys got it bad? White guys are fucking hateful as shit. White guys against other white guys have to find something feminine to, and what they do typically is attack our physical, thinking that, oh, all those hot girls down there in Colombia aren't going to go for a guy like you. Look at you, you're not in shape. Look at you, you're older. They don't want an old. They don't want they want a younger guy. Oh, they want a millionaire because their mind is so conditioned to think that the requirements for women down here are the same as they are up in the U.S., which is completely false. Now, the requirements down here is that you have a pulse and that you are nice to them. That's all you got to do, and get your teeth fixed. Don't be like me with a busted face, all fucked up, broken nose, and eyeballs and shit hanging out. You go and get your shit fixed. and you start smelling good and start dressing like the Colombians do. Okay, you come down here and you think that's gonna be how it is in Miami because you've been around Colombians in Miami. You know what? You have not been around Colombians. You've been around people who used to be paisas. You come down here and you're like, you suddenly hear their accent and their Spanish, and they're just so incredible and sweet and nice. And if they're from Venezuela, don't assume that they're poor and they need you. Okay, because there are a lot of Venezuelan families who had shit tons of money. And before the collapse of the country, which the crisis I think was right around the time I retired, was like 2011. So right around that time, I was in Cucuta, which is on the border of Venezuela, and all of a sudden their economy went to shit. This was during a time when Chavez was actually giving out washers and dryers. He gave food to everybody. He took care of all the lights and all the water. Nobody paid for anything. So they had this mentality like they are royalty, basically. They never had to pay for shit. And so that mindset carried on with them when you go to Panama. And you will soon find that they are the professional workers, the workers of the nighttime guys, the prettiest of the prettiest that work in teams with boyfriends that are also from Venezuela or Colombia. There was a time that if you saw a Colombian in Panama and she was of any status whatsoever, it was considered to be a worker. And you would assume that. Now, the 3 million women that came into Panama are the prettier ones. The rest of them went to the United States. Why? Because the prettier ones, like I said, are out there. They use this opportunity to leave the country to go to a richer country, which is Panama, which is flowing with US dollars, and which they can get turned out all day long, in and out all day long, independently, no pimps, no whorehouses, none of that shit. And I think they were getting, this is years ago. I've not been to Panama in a few years now, so they were getting $100 a pop. And if it was like Habaneros, which is a cigar bar, you know what I mean? It's you go to the cigar bar and it's like 300 women there that are beautiful. It looks like there's a fashion show going on. So you go there and you order a cigar and clip it, and you want a drink or something like that, you order it, and then you have a table full of women. And whether or not you buy anything for them or not, it is irrelevant. They're not there to drink and get drunk. They're there to pick up dudes to go to the motel around the corner for $25 for an hour. And so they hope that they can figure you out that quick, just like any kind of salesperson. The minute that you walk in, you have 300 pairs of eyes on you. And they are checking you out. And they're checking out who you're checking out. And since they know that this is a repeat business, they know that your type is a certain way. If they see you driving a car, which is not likely, they're going to assume you're a certain way. But the best advice I can give to any of you is remember that just like myself and just like most of you, that remember that this world that we are in is a theater. This is a theater of pain. It is a theater that you and I are the subject principal actors in this, whatever this is. And so these young ladies that came from Venezuela or from Colombia that are open market selling themselves, and these are, again, educated women that came from families. But when their economy was crushed like that, their older relatives stayed in Venezuela and they fled to other countries to go make American dollars to send back to their parents. Completely and absolutely, utterly justifiable and encouraged. So you're going to find that if you do get a girl, like I said, if you find a girl and you find out that she was or is actively selling that thing, is that you can replace them Super easy. No matter how beautiful or hot or sweet they are, they have an identical twin. Actually, they have two identical. They would have triplets, I guess, at that point. So they would have an identical version of them somewhere else. So my recommendation is always, always, always only date women in the higher stratuses when you're dealing in that, because you could do the greatest error of all time and get with a girl that you may or may not know has been a working girl that is upfront with you or is not, and you decide, this is so easy. I could pick out the prettiest girl, and because she's a prostitute, make her all kinds of promises so that she'll go with me. And you'd be fucking wrong, 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 wrong. Okay, these chicks come from places like Colombia and Venezuela to make shit tons of money to send back to their kids and to their family. And you are a dream to them. They're a dream to you because you want a hot girl that's going to have sex with you all the time, that has no morals and no moral compass, that is experienced, all this shit, because that's what you're used to. You're used to dirtbags. You're used to just low level, trash. And that's what you're used to. So that's what you attract and that's what you get. So when you come down here and you meet people that aren't associated with any of that shit, they've never done drugs in their life, that rarely drink, that still go to church on Sunday sometimes. So these are people who are actually very normal. And you'd be like, wow, I cannot believe another country where people are actually normal. But why is it stigmatized by prostitution? Well, prostitution is the oldest profession in the world. In countries in Latin America where they don't have shit tons of rules like the US does and Canada does or whatever, they allow things to go because they understand the economics. We understand putting people in jail for prostitution because we understand the economics. When you put one person in jail for 1 year, how much money does that generate for the private prison system? Anybody? Anybody? 50,000 US dollars. So it's in our best interest as the US government to just make rules for every fucking thing, in spite of good or bad or indifferent. It doesn't matter if it's raw milk or collecting fucking rainwater or if it's full blown prostitution. Doesn't matter at this point. Right now, if this is revenge of the fucking nerds. Right now, it's revenge of the nerds. They have installed incompetent people to be in charge of our decision making for us. And now we've all opened our eyes and we've realized that we have been tricked so bad that all of history has been a lie, that this whole thing is about money and addiction to money and a game. It becomes the love of money to the point where we'll kill each other over it. And it means nothing and it's valued at nothing. It is empty promises of a somehow I figured out that this whole setup has been a credit system. Like the whole thing is a credit system that we have been lent out to some entity in exchange for money. And that entity and buys the souls of people who are dumb enough or desperate enough to sell it to the devil. So when I say that there's a reason why you should get your passport and get out of the country, is because the devil operates that country just like it operated all the other countries before it fell. They had every single thing about not just Sodom and Gomorrah, but Rome and Greece and ancient Spain and northern Africa. And look at the Germanics, look at the Prussians. Every single time in modern day history, it has been because of romances and finances. Romances, but not necessarily good ones, because God doesn't like it when dudes go with dudes. And at the end of these civilizations, they get to the point where they're doing things with dogs and monkeys and horses and children. And that is unacceptable to God. So God does a master reset. And it's like, oops, push that fucking button and down you go down the drain. And then that civilization has been wiped out. It is soon replaced by a dumber civilization, which is where we are today in the fourth fucking turning. Which, if you're sick of being in the US, just remember, I'm not there because, it's bad, okay? I'm not there because, people are degenerate or selfish or materialistic and all I talk about is money. And then, they don't know how to tell the truth ever. So I mean, it's easy for me as a guy who used to be all those things. Like, well, I don't do those things anymore. So, but it's easy for me as a guy now. I'm living in Mexico where people lie and steal every day. So it's no different for me. But the difference is the amount of entitlement we as Americans have. And there is a master reset button that I insist if you go overseas and you decide to live down here, that if I was to give you something special and tell you do this every day, and you will be so far from the matrix that all these stupid fighting and all this stuff that people have to say about us being overseas will mean nothing to you, because we really don't argue with people that don't mean shit to us. But we as content creators, we've experienced a lot of shit down here, and the easy thing for some guys to do is to meet hookers and make them their girlfriends, or even worse, their wives, and bring them back to the States and get them all tatted up so they can show off on Instagram how hot their built-in personal whore is. You see what I'm saying? And it was told to me exactly like that. That's exactly that's what they attract. That's what they like. And they have nothing to lose. They have everything to fucking gain. They could be broke as barrio girls. One of you dummies will take her back to fucking Miami with you. Within a month or two, she'll be ruined because she'll be around all that money and all those people with the weird attitudes. And then you'll get around to the Colombianas that have been playing the game for a while, and she'll realize how much money she's losing from being with you. So that whole cycle of, is it the prostitution money it's for my kids back in Colombia, or the prostitution money is because, I like to have lots of things. But the point of this is that they have conditioned us to believe that we're not good enough to leave the US at all. Like, we don't deserve to have better lives. We deserve to have shitty girls, that the ones I just described, not girls that are nice, not girls that go, amor, hay café? And she would answer if she could hear me. So you follow what I'm saying here, guys, is that we are definitely on a better mindset when you stay with the girls overseas and don't bring them back. They always get ruined every time. You get suckered into this shit. But I'm going to tell you where we are right now as people. Okay? If you're down here emotionally, you're going to look for a girl that's down here emotionally. If you're up here, you have like self-esteem, you work out, you're going to go for a girl that goes to the gym. You're not going to go for that busted ass fat bitch just because she looked at you or she sucked your dick the first time you went out with her and you met her in the fucking 7-Eleven. So those are not special girls. They're not going to do anything but cause you problems. So if you take your time and don't marry the first one you meet, it's the stupidest thing you'll ever do, because you'll find so many. And the one that you'll find, you'll be like, damn, dude, 2 weeks later, you see the one that's 20 times hotter. And then when you think she's the hottest one, and maybe you dip on that one and you go with that one and you think she's the hottest one, you find there's 10 times hotter. So I'm saying it just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And if you really want to be successful, go with God on this. Just use the power that sent you there to begin with and say, hey, look, I now believe in you, God. I believe you saved me from my sins. Now I know you're helping me be safe on my travels. Everywhere I go, God is with me, y'all. I don't give a shit if you don't believe in him or not. He is with me all the time. All the time. I'm walking through the worst parts of San Juan that, you know what I'm saying? There's dudes that came over in the middle of the night from the Dominican on rafts, and they're all wet and shit, and they have no money and no food, and like, I'm like 3 a.m. walking to my truck from fucking salsa dancing and shit, and nothing happened. No one said, hey, what's up? None of that shit. None of that shit that kicked off. None of that kick on off shit. Walk straight, buenas noches, and that was it. Because I don't know, I got lucky or if I got these massive angels with me all the time. But the thing is that you want to always go to a place to be safe and inexpensive. I mean, what's the point of leaving the States and going to another place and the rent is like $1,500? That's like a mansion down here. Forget that. You want to go and position yourself to be close to transport, close to a gym, and close to a grocery store or a market where you could buy food because you're going to be cooking for yourself from now on. No more of this cooking out, going through drive-through shit. Why? Because there are no drive-throughs down here. Very seldom will you ever find a drive-through. They just closed the third and no, excuse me, the second of three McDonald's here. They have one McDonald's left, and it's on the main highway, like way the fuck outside. They don't want McDonald's here. They see what all this shit's done to the bodies of humans. They don't want it. They want to have good looking bodies now. They have a 97% of literacy rate in Mexico. So like some ridiculously high number of people can read here as to where before it was like a 40-60, illiteracy. Now it's 90% above. It's over 95%. Just so that let that set in with you for a second because they have positioned this collapse for a very long time. All the companies that are on the border of Tijuana right now, just so you know, when you pass the border and then you pass through that one spot when you go through customs, like all that land right there is owned now by Chinese corporations that are like Amazon. Okay. So their whole plan is to use Mexico as their new hub for distribution. So they're going to use Mexico like they use the US. So China is going to be sending all the good stuff to Mexico, and Mexico is going to be managing it and installing things and putting things together. And they're rebuilding like all this infrastructure in exchange for, well, whatever the fuck they decide to do. So they have written off the US. They have not even decided mathematically it's even worth it to invest anything anymore up there because they're planning on something happening. And I've known they plan on this happening because prior to the coronavirus happening, there was a company that used to make these really nice t-shirts, and these are made for firefighters, so they're flame proof. So when I sent them a message saying I wanted to try a new design of shirts, they were like, well, if you do you mind if we send you like tons and tons of materials because our factories are going to be closing down for a while due to something serious. But they didn't tell me what it was, that it was some virus or some shit. So the Chinese government had prepped people in the industries in China in advance for shutting down before the coronavirus, just so you know. And this is coming from the same area. So we knew there was something up and that was everything across the board. So I was in Colombia at the time. I'm not gonna import no fucking 50 million shirts and be your distributor. But now I realize that they were positioning themselves for the future. So we have, as North Americans, lived a gracious life full of, flush with cash, being able to spend that $100 on whatever. And then you come down here and you try and do that again, reproducing those things, thinking you're going to get the same results. No, down here, if you throw your money around, you're going to get hustled hard. You're going to get robbed at gunpoint. So you don't do that down here. You don't wear your wallet on your head. Instead, you do things the old-fashioned way. You just imagine yourself in like United States in 1970. Then you come down to Latin America, you're like, oh, now I get it. So you're allowed to like talk to people and like ask girls out on dates and like kiss in public and hold hands and be nice to people. Yeah. Wow, what's that like? That's what it's like. It's none of this, showing off shit and how much money do you make and what kind of car do you drive? Because nobody drives down here. You never drive. Why would you drive a car in Medellin, Colombia? Do you know what I'm saying? There's like 500 motorcycles coming through every intersection. Somebody's dying every single day. at impact. So driving a car, you're better off riding in an Uber shaped like a tank. Save your ass. That's the most dangerous part, by the way, of living in Latin America is traffic. So if you're smart like me and you drive a nice car, you don't live in a big city like Mexico City. You live out in the middle of friggin' nowhere. So you literally the only kind of like traffic you'll get into is like when there's a tractor and then some goats and some sheep going over the fucking bridge and you're like stuck in traffic. That's traffic for me. So I don't even play that shit no more. So now we're going back to square one. Why do guys pick pros? Well, they pick pros because they're picking low hanging fruit that's dressed very nice at night. That happens to probably be very nice and sweet. That's all made up and so on, dollied up with the big fakies and the whole thing, the whole 9 yards, because that's what they have been conditioned to believe is out of reach. That they believe that that would be what a high value man would wife up or would date. Like a basketball store would totally go for that girl, or a rapper would totally go for her. So he's basing that image, which is not a good one, so you know, because there's not a lot of good girls in that whole, prostitution thing. So, but they're basing that image, what they believe to be sexy and hot, which it is, by the way. So I'm not downplaying that there are some hookers that probably wreck you and rock your world. What I'm saying is don't marry them. Don't bring them back to the US. They'll take you for a ride and do all this bad shit to you and lie to your face, and they'll still go get digged down by the same guy that gave them a baby when they were fucking 14 back in the barrio. So don't trust them. You can't trust them. It is a sex monger's paradise now, and finding a relationship in Medellin, Colombia, it's going to be in the upper echelons of society because anything that's middle class and below that has like Bella, is it Bello? It's Bello. Bello has the prettiest girls, but it's also the poorest girls. The prettiest, poorest girls have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 brothers and sisters. And if you wife them up, you will have all of them as your live-in roommates forever, and their mom and their dad and their uncles, aunts, cousins. So you know I own a castle. So you literally would need, a 22 room estate just to house your new family that you will finance thoroughly. Or you could take the rich route. I always say don't sucker, don't simp. You have to learn how to pimp. I don't give a shit how rich they are. All right. I've gone out with lawyers, judges, just the top of the line. All of them. Big money. Big, big money. And they were probably marriage material, but I fucking know better. I know better now. You guys got to realize that we have a broken picker. We see boobs and titties, and we just think that's what love is. So you don't look at this logically. So I know guys that have been willing to spend thousands and thousands of dollars of their pensions to send by Western Union to these girls that don't love them at all, but give them attention. Papi, buenos dias, send them pictures. And these are older guys that are older than me, way older than me. And they're not in shape, and they're not good looking, and they are insecure and everything else. And I'm telling them, no, do not send money. Do not send money. You tell them, no, baby, I'll take care of you when I come down there. Because when you come down there, then they want to see you. Because if you just send shit fucking money off to, they're going to spend it on their boyfriend, to their baby. They're going to take the whole family out to eat, whatever. Because you make excess of 30 times what they make. 30 times their salary. That's how much money you make as a North American that makes an average salary of $37,000. You make 30 times what they make. So anything is of help. You see what I'm saying? Anything really is very valuable to them as far as money goes. And there might be a good mix. You may be able to meet a girl then Like you could change their life like this. And I don't know why, but I've never dated poor girls because all my friends that dated poor girls always ended up like dealing with headaches and ex-boyfriends that were crazy and jealous and just not good. And I don't help guys that get their asses, put into those situations. I tell them in advance, like, dude, do not allow this. Hey, we got a bird over here. Might have to go help this bird. What do we got here? Hang on now. Why is that bird over here? Let's go see if he's injured. That was amazing. You didn't even see that. Did you see that? That was a beautiful bird. So there's a fine line between these two. And the mistake that guys make, this is the mistake that guys make. They get emotionally attached to a professional and they think that's love. And they think that they are going to be like a team and that they think that they're corrupt enough to go out with a woman who, and he's probably got enough money to keep her from going out and selling that thing. But the minute that he gets on a plane and goes somewhere else, she's already got fucking 60 other guys lined up. How do I know? Well, let's say was one time that I got this big, beautiful house in Guadalajara. It was in an area that was brand new, had a new gym and a golf course and swimming pool and all this stuff. So I bring my girl from Venezuela and her daughter, which is not my daughter at all, to Guadalajara to live in this big fancy life, to buy a new car and put her in private school, blah, blah, blah. And to do all these promises that I'm now looking back on and should have done with my own kids. That's what I should have done. I should have done them with my own kids. Instead, I was being an idiot. So it is what it is. Now I'm sitting here looking back on this. I'm like ready to finance a girl from Venezuela who is a full-time professional prostitute. So I get the phone. She's on the phone. And you ever guys ever done this and they turn away? That's when you know what's up. Okay? That's when you know what's up. And there's not much more you could do after that. Once that is gone, once that is over, it's over. So I am, let me see, going ballistic with this girl at this point because she has gone from being the sweet, cute, ready to rock all the time, sexy body, always in like a tube top with her no panties on, ready to rock with me all the time. Anytime I want, anytime, day or night, anywhere, all the time. But it always seems to end in a conversation about money and my mom back in Venezuela. And I moved all the way here to be with you. And now you got to send her money because she broke her fucking knee and. But you don't realize that this girl has been run through by who the fuck knows how many guys. So I wanted to find out. I'm one of these guys that was like, I want to know how many body counts you have. But motherfucker, you are not prepared for what you're about to find out. So what I did was this phone suddenly stopped working. Okay. It was not working. So I said, okay, well, I'll fix it. And so while I was in there, I went into her WhatsApp and I looked at all the numbers that she had blocked. And she had 60 something guys' numbers blocked from all different countries. So I knew she was tricking. I knew she was hooking. And I knew at that point that I was a fucking sucker. And then I needed to go to a fucking doctor. I needed to get myself checked out because who in the fuck knows? She might have banged one of you guys and never knew it. But you know what? It just didn't make sense to me. She was so pretty. Then it dawned on me. That's why she does it. She is one of those eights, nines, and tens that we are so hot to trot about. But she didn't have any tattoos. And I didn't know she had a kid. She was so young. She was only like 19. Yeah, she was so fucking beautiful. And I was like, damn, I'm like 30 something. She's 19. This will be perfect, right? Like 30 something years old. I'm ready to rock. Well, I kind of have a complicated life because I'm from Venezuela, which the country's about to collapse. And I'm from a socialist country. And you know all about that. So basically a mirror image of Yugoslavia from 1987. That's what happened to Venezuela. Venezuela was a rich country that has more money than any other country in Latin America, but because of communism and of socialism and of their leadership to deliberately destroy that country because they wouldn't do business and play ball with George Bush, because Venezuela was going to be the new Saudi Arabia, just so you know. We didn't have to transport shit. We were making deals. We had Saudi locked up forever. You guys didn't know that. That when I'm not sure if it was Gerald Ford or who the fuck it was that went and met with the Saudis. Okay, the Saudis is a family. It's not a country. It's a family. I worked for the Saudis in Saudi Arabia. That's who I worked for in Saudi, was the Saudis, not the Saudi Arabian country. Okay, they made a deal that said, you let us come here and drill oil and we will protect Saudi Arabia forever with all of our resources. Whatever you want, we will help you forever. And that is the devil. That is the trade they made with the devil. Now Israel has a deal with Saudi Arabia. Okay? Saudi Arabia and Israel are allies. Isn't that odd though? Because Saudi Arabia is part of the BRICS nation. And so is Brazil, and so is India, and so is China, so is Russia. And all these little countries that are sort of our allies, that if we stop paying them, you follow me? They're going to follow the money. They're going to go where the money's at. There's no loyalty amongst thieves. There's nothing like that. And all these politicians, let me tell you what they're doing and what they did, and they got away with it, is they managed to suck out all the tax money from the U.S. and send it over to Ukraine. So you guys know Zelensky, President Zelensky, was an actor in Miami. That's where they got him. They are all connected, guys. All this shit is connected. This whole thing is a show. They have all these poor people on the outskirts of Kiev fighting the poor people from the poor people of Russia. Okay? This is not a show of force. This is a goddamn show. It's a theater. And they're doing it to wash money on weapons that they've invested their money into. Companies that make guns and fucking bombs and shit. So that they'll wash that money, and then Joe Biden goes away, and then suddenly whatever the fuck happens next, and he gets away with it. Rubber mask guy wins all the money. It's a goddamn puppet show. That's right, Ozzy. Everything is a show. So they got away with the money. They took our fucking economy and shut it down sent it down the shitter. They ruined all the trust that we had with any form of organized government. So they installed people that were incapable of doing the job. So it's all been a setup. And then they're trying and trying and trying and trying again to start race wars all over again. Any of you who grew up in the 90s know damn well what's up. You and I know this is a setup. It's some bullshit. But you know how this thing plays out. All right? In the end, God wins. Okay. And you at this point need to be on God's side. And I'm not telling you to go running back to church because church is some bullshit now, but you can join me and maybe Uncle Jackie one of these nights on a Saturday, which is the actual Sabbath, Saturday, Sabado, Sabbath. Sunday, the Rockefellers decided on that one. So they wanted to have the cycle of weeks. They managed to make one whole month disappear so that they would work us till we're 65 years old and die so we wouldn't have to be paid a salary or a pension. It's all set up. Every bit of this shit is about money and insurance companies. Who is at the base of all the insurance companies? What is insurance? Insurance is gambling. Right. Base debt with interest, unlimited funds of printing money. We all know what's up now. It's all been a show. If you value things like money at this point, then you might still be in the matrix. I'm sort of sick of money. I'm not saying it's not fun to have when you haven't had it in your whole life and you suddenly get some. Yeah, it's cool. But what I'm saying is that you get to a point where it's just, I went to the Dominican and I'm sitting, I literally get off the plane and I go to the terminal. I go get outside where my bag's at. And the second that the first person talks to me is instantly start asking for money. From the minute you get off the plane, the porters for your, to carry your suitcases, even the carts to carry your suitcases on, like the locals will grab those and say, no, you got to rent these. And then the taxis are like $37 any which way you go, don't matter. And you can't call Uber because they'll fist fight out in the fucking parking lot in the airport. So there's all kinds of silly ass rules and dumb shit, and it's all about money. This economy that maybe you and we didn't grow up with this economy. These people don't work for money. They work for sandwiches. Like I'll have like a group of kids that'll come and I may need like 10 like full-time bodybuilders to come and work security, and I'll pay them with a sandwich, like a ham and cheese sandwich and maybe a Coke. But they like water. I don't know why they like the flavored waters and stuff. So you see what I'm saying? It's a different mentality when it comes to money. It's a different mentality when it comes to like what they find impressive or valuable. So it is not your experience. Oh, well, I used to be a DJ at the Winter Music Conference and I had like 30,000 people when the bass dropped and shit. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I rented a fucking Ferrari when I was in Fort Lauderdale one time. This shit is so unimpressive to anybody on the outside world. Like that might work for the hoes you're used to. And like seeing your picture of you on Instagram with 15 filters on it, wearing a pair of fucking $2.50 glasses. That's what I'm saying, is that none of this stuff is real. So why embrace that anymore? If you know that it's fake and you participate in it, you're part of the lie that perpetuates itself even further, which is why they're allowed to talk about us the way they do. Why? Because we're doing stupid shit on the internet and then pimping like it's awesome. Like, look at all these hoes. Wow. You rented every fucking one of them. And by the way, they cost $18 an hour to rent. Okay? $18 is the going rate to rent. And they might get 4, 5, 6 that they met at Parquilleras one night and got one's phone number and said, hey, you got any girlfriends that are hot like you? And they'll do it. They'll all show up in the same fucking Uber. And at the end of the night, you can pay them whatever the fuck it is you decided that you arranged. But you're going to sit there and videotape it as if that's a flex. You see what I'm saying? You see how fake this is? And now that looks fake and you are fake and everything that you have is rented. Those girls don't know your name. They don't care. They're not going to invite you over for Mondongo on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to say, oh, it's not going to work out, but I do have a sister who doesn't have any kids because I know you don't like single mothers. So I have a sister and she doesn't have any kids. So maybe you like her. That is what I'm exposing here. That is what I'm trying to say, is that we have been conditioned to believe lies upon lies upon lies about how the world is outside, and that to assume The worst is the default outside of the world. What I mean by that, you see how pretty these Colombian girls are riding on horses? All right. And if you have not seen them, they are in my feed. These girls ride horses because their families have ranches with horses on them. And just so you guys know that it is not cheap to own horses or to have ranches. The ranch that I was just on costs in dollars 220 million dollars. Okay. Nothing to sneeze at. These people are all Mexican. And they're not cartel or drugs or none of that shit. But they got more horses and cows and like steer. All right. They let me ride all their so I don't care. You can say anything you want. You may have come to the conclusion that all of Mexico is poor. Good. Colombia is poor too. It's got poor parts down there. But let me tell you something. When you get down here and you shut the fuck up for a while and you realize that there is way more to this life than the sensationalist crap that you think is so important. Yeah, you're gonna find a banging ass girlfriend. It's almost guaranteed. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your economic status is. That if you're capable of holding a conversation, starting off with hi, then you're capable of getting the best girl you've ever had in your life. Why? Because the women down here are wired differently. They're bred differently. Their bodies are different. They walk everywhere, so they're half in shape. The only girls that you guys see are the ones that leave here and go up there. And those are the poor ones. You always get the fat ones, the poor ones, the criminal ones, the ones that actually go in those tunnels underneath the border and like go there and live like 20 years illegally and have 700 kids. Those are the girls that in your mind is what Mexican girls are like, or Colombian girls are like, or Nicaragua or Dominican girls are like, because that is your conditioning. When you don't realize is that I'm never going to go to Boca Chica in the Dominican Republic. Like, there is no reason that a guy like myself would go to Boca Chica at night. Okay. What's a Boca Chica at night? Pure prostitutes, alcoholics, drug addicts, drug dealers, like any vice you could think of. Oh, what you want, a fucking monkey with AIDS? Yeah, we got that too. Come on this way. You see what I'm saying? It's the wild fucking West. It's Las Vegas times 1,000. They have dudes dressed up like girls too with a little fucking wig on their head. All that's the same. But then you would ask yourself, well, you would go there and you go, this is the Dominican? This is how it's supposed to be? I mean, you might think it's cool because you're like, wow, they're just doing all kinds of bad shit that you're not allowed to do in the States. So it might make it cool. But then you don't realize that I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. All right, I stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. My ex-wife came to visit me. Right? Came to visit me staying at the Ritz-Carlton. I'm like, what are you doing here? She goes, I came to bring you a Bible. Mwah, mwah. Get the fuck out of here. What do you want? No, I just got some papers. I just, I think maybe you want it. I don't know. And I said, you came all the way here to give me fucking papers. Mwah, mwah. I know what she did. She wanted to fucking get down. I wasn't having that shit. And then she went away mad. She was staying in the fucking Ritz-Carlton too. But that's what it's like, y'all. I don't stay in places that are fucked up. I don't go to places where the food is bad. I don't go to places where it's the cheapest. But I don't stay in the nicest, most expensive places either. Because I'm not an idiot. Right? I do the economy route, but I stay off the Gringo tourist trail entirely. You guys have been to Cancun more times than I have, and I've been there just to drop off fucking groceries and bottled water for the fucking hurricane. I wasn't there to go surfing USA and go humping on fucking girls. I came there to go save lives and shit and go distribute food in a fucking ambulance because somebody dressed like the National Guard decided to steal 3 trucks of supplies that we sent down with full food and soap and water and everything else. And it was people that are dressed up in National Guard shit, some cartel stuff. Who the fuck knows? But you guys have been to the tourist places. I don't go to tourist places. Like Mexico City is about the touristy of tourist places that I've ever been. But I don't hang out in the places that like you go, oh yeah, well that's like, you go there for like Cinco de Mayo party and shit. No, I don't do that. I don't drink. I don't go and hang out in bars and stuff like that. I don't care about the ocean. Suck a dick. If you're not fishing, I don't give a shit. I got a river down the street from my house and I know how to fly fish. Save me the whole plane trip going to goddamn Cancun. Go hang out with degenerate gamblers like you. Telling you guys is that these people have a way of playing this game with us, saying that Mexico is disgusting and is dangerous and is filthy, and it is in certain places. But there are other places that are so nice, you'd be like, damn, I feel ashamed. Our shit is all like square box stores and fucking gas stations and sad rundown buildings. And here you come to Mexico and you're like, dude, it's nice here. This can't be real. I had people in Germany that are saying that's not that's es ist nichts, that's no. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, where is everybody with the sombreros? Where is the mariachis? We don't. I believe this not because Mexico has a cactus and it has a desert and it has the women with the white dress, yes, and the hombres, the mans with the big sombreros. So you see the illusion that the outside world has of Mexico is that of cartels and of the old world of Mexico, like the old mud flood, like pueblitos, colonial, like Spanish mud hut style. And that's cool. I mean, there are places in Mexico still like that. Um, but I have yet not here in Mexico, we have zones that are like states. Like every state is like a small country itself. And so the cartel lives in the northern part up by Tijuana and up on the northern part by El Paso and by Brownsville and all those border towns there. And that's where they might transport drugs or possible human trafficking. All those areas are run by the cartels. So why in the hell would they come here in the middle of a place in the middle of nowhere, mind you, that doesn't have tourists, doesn't have, crazy expensive shit? Why? Because the cartel family members live here in this area right here. They live right there on the golf course. You see them driving around in their fucking American cars. Just, you know what I mean? They drive just what you drive the same shit. If it's fancy in the States and it makes a noise, that's what they drive. And they all have bodyguards. Their kids are horrible assholes. So, I don't know, man. I happened to live in a gated community for 3 years and sat there and looked to my left and looked to my right. My neighbor on the right side sitting there reading the newspaper, closes it like this, looks to the left. There's a fucking guy running with a full armor on and shit, with an Uzi and a bottle of water, running to bring a fucking bottle of water to one of these narco kids. I'm serious about this shit. So the world I live in is not the world that you might see on the news. You'd say, "Oh, that it looks disgusting in Mexico." Yeah, places that they're showing is called the campo. These are like where people like recycle trash to get like plastic bottles to get like 10 cents. And they'll be like huge bags like this big, and they'll load them on top of a bicycle and go for miles to go recycle them for the equivalent of 50 cents. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. The time, I mean, I know we're in clown world and I know everything is destroyed now. So if this is a simulation, then why am I formulating these type of scenarios that are just so horribly cataclysmic? Like they're very apocalyptic in every way. Like I see the U.S. now like Mad Max. It may not look that way where you're at, but from my view here, when you turn on the TV, dude, it looks like the friggin' world is burning down in the U.S. Like, is it safe to even go outside? People are like, yeah, what are you talking about? Of course it is. Like, doesn't look like it to me. It like seems to me like it's like the whole place is on fire. But anyway, the last part of this too is that if you do like I did, you'll always get what I got. You always get what you got if you think that you're going to lead any relationship with your wallet. And I've tried it because I automatically assumed they respect money because like American women, American expect and respect money. So if I have some money and it's more than they're used to, they should respect me, right? Wrong. You see, the difference down here is that women don't respect money. They value hard work. They value a guy who's talented, who's a standout. Like, I didn't come down here as the chief of the fire department. Like, I was not the fire chief when I got here, motherfuckers. When I got here, I was a bodybuilder and my fucking dog had just passed away. Like, a service dog had died. So I'm like just sad and angry at the same time. And so I I'm just like, man, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with this game. I'm done with these hoes because it seems like the only hoes that I get, they're all terrible. They all smell. They all been run through. This seems to me like the venereal disease list gets worse by the years. And so it makes it very less likely for a guy like me to even fuck with those girls anymore because I'm not dating no girls that aren't loaded. I'm not going out with girls that are not loaded ever, ever. And there is a difference in the personalities that they have. There's a difference in their bodies. The girls that are richer, believe it or not, spend more on Krispy Kreme and Starbucks than the poor girls. Why? Poor girls could never go to the store, afford to go to Starbucks. Besides that, the closest Starbucks to them is like 20 miles away because they don't put Starbucks in poor neighborhoods. It's logical. So now here we are at the end of it all. Can you still find a really, really nice traditional girl in Colombia? Hell yeah. You guys are thinking of a very small part of the population that doesn't even register. We don't see them. Like you think that that's what the life is like down here. I used to tell people like, yeah, I'm going to move to Colombia. Like, oh yeah, really? It's going to be like piles of cocaine in the streets. Like, and then you come down to Colombia and you realize that Colombians don't, they hate drugs. They hate what it did to their country. There used to be such a sweet population about them before they were corrupted by money and novella lifestyle. Because that's what happened. Money and drugs, cocaine sent to the US made the country very, very rich. And it made the very small percentage of psychopaths super rich. And it allowed people to distribute money that was normally never available to Colombians. So with the money that he was getting from the US, from the CIA, from the FBI, and from trafficking, he managed to rebuild almost every single department in the whole country, reinforce borders, build bridges, did all kinds of shit in exchange for the soul of his country. So everybody, when they say stuff about, oh, you're Colombians, oh, so you must like cocaine, it's an insult to them. They don't like cocaine. In fact, they're embarrassed by what it did to the reputation of their country. That makes all men out to be drug traffickers and all women out to be prostitutes. So you can understand why this attitude that Americans have towards other countries is kind of boring. That's what they say in Colombian Espanol. They say, muy aburridos, actitud americano tienen. So they don't like the attitude that they have. They have these beautiful women. They have this great food and drinks. They have these cheap houses that are really beautiful to live in. But yet, we tend to think that we're better than them. When the truth is, a lot of these people down here are way better than us. I've had to take an inventory of my own self and say, damn, I'm a real dickhead. Damn, I'm just a show off. Damn, I'm not very good about shit. I'm not the best in the class. I thought I was. I thought I was the best in the class. I thought I was the best guy because I had the blonde hair, blue-eyed advantage. And it didn't work forever, guys. I just attracted more and more gold diggers, more and more heartbreakers, more and more liars, just that were still married to thieves. And I mean, it's just any bad thing you could just imagine. So it made me super cautious about ever dealing with them ever again. So when you find one, be patient. If she meets you at the airport, you've gone too far, you've taken it a little too fast. The second trip, she should meet you at the airport, not the first. And if there's anything I missed, I hope this covered most of it, but don't make that mistake. There's a lot of dudes that come down here. They see an easy opportunity to marry a really pretty girl that might give him all the cha-cha he wants, and he might be able to save her. But guys, you know damn well you can't save a hoe. Jesus can't save these hoes. What makes you think you can? Anyway, I gotta run, you guys. It's time for class already. I'm the professor, and I'm out, yo.